Happier is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds.
Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Lemonada.
I'm Gretchen Rubin, and this is A Little Happier. As I've often noted, I love paradoxes, koans, and aphorisms, as well as all kinds of teaching stories or statements. For a long time, I've thought it might be fun to write a series of fables. A fable is a specific kind of teaching story. Typically, it's a short story conveying a moral that features animals as characters. You probably know the fable of the tortoise and the hare, and the grasshopper and the ant. Because I have an interest in fables, when I was wandering through the library one day, I couldn't resist pulling out American writer William March's book, 99 Fables. And I was particularly struck by fable number 4, The Persimmon Tree, about a loophole-invoking possum. In the fable, a possum looks longingly at the delicious persimmons hanging from the fox's tree, and he thinks about how badly he wants one. "No," he says, "the fox is my friend and benefactor, and he trusts me. Oh, no." Several days later, he stares again at the persimmon tree, where the fruits had reached their finest flavor. His mouth waters, but he turns away and goes home. There he sees his wife, who says, "What a morning this would be for eating persimmons. When I think how sweet they are, I could break down and cry my eyes out." The possum says, "That settles it. I'll take those persimmons if it's the last thing I ever do. Why, what sort of creature would I be if I deprived my sweet, faithful wife of persimmons, endangering her health and making her cry her dear eyes out?" The fable concludes, we often do for the sake of others what we would like to do for ourselves. In my book, Better Than Before, I write about the 21 strategies we can use to make or break our habits. Sometimes people protest that 21 is too many and tell me, well, just give me the 3 best ones. But the fact is, some of these strategies work really well for some people, but are actually counterproductive for others, such as the strategy of accountability. Some strategies are only available to us at certain times of our lives, such as the strategy of the clean slate. I loved writing the book Better Than Before because the topic of habits is so fascinating to me. But it is true that I had a favorite chapter, the chapter on the strategy of loophole spotting. Now, what is a loophole? A loophole is a justification that we invoke to excuse us from following through with a particular action or habit. We're not mindfully making exceptions. We're invoking justifications to excuse us from keeping this particular habit in this particular situation. Loopholes matter because when we try to form and keep habits, we often search for loopholes. However, if we catch ourselves in the act of loophole seeking, we can perhaps avoid employing the loophole and improve our chances for keeping the habit. That is the strategy of loophole spotting. I identify 10 categories of loopholes. For instance, there's the false choice loophole, which is my personal favorite. There's the fake self-actualization loophole, the tomorrow loophole, the dangerously applicable one coin loophole, and many others. And if you're curious to learn about all 10, I will post a link in the show notes. In the fable, the possum is invoking the concern for others loophole. Now, of course, sometimes we do things out of genuine and necessary concern for others. However, with this loophole, we tell ourselves we're acting out of consideration for others and making generous, unselfish decisions when really we're letting ourselves off the hook. Or we decide we must do something in order to fit into a social situation because we don't want to make the needed effort to go against the grain. For instance, it will hurt my girlfriend's feelings if I get up early to write. I'm not buying this junk food for me. I have to keep it around for others. So many people need me. There's no time to focus on my own health. I don't want to seem holier than thou. My adult son keeps telling me not to bother to bring homemade desserts for Thanksgiving, but I wouldn't think of letting him down, even though it's so much trouble. Changing my schedule would inconvenience other people. I can't ask my partner to stay with the kids while I go to class. At this dinner, everyone is drinking, and it would seem weird and awkward if I didn't drink. This loophole comes up a lot with drinking. Teenagers aren't the only ones to feel peer pressure to drink. Do you agree with the moral of the fable that, like the possum, we often do for the sake of others what we would like to do for ourselves? Have you ever done something you thought you shouldn't for the benefit of someone else? This loophole is tricky because sometimes to do that is an admirable expression of virtue, and other times a subtle form of self-deception. I'm Gretchen Rubin, and I hope this makes your week a little happier. From the Onward Project.
Hi, Gretchen, Craig Robinson, and my little sister Michelle here. We host a new podcast called IMO with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson. We know you're the queen of giving advice, so we wanted to get a few tips from you.
You know, Gretchen, a lot of our listeners are going through some major life changes. What advice do you have for folks who are trying to stay grounded in the midst of major life transitions?
Craig and Michelle, I am so happy to be talking to you. Here are a few questions that might help us gain perspective. So consider questions like this. What activities take up my time but are not particularly useful or stimulating for me? Do I spend a lot of time on something that's important to someone else, but is not very important to me? If I could magically change one habit in my life, what would I choose? And here's a question. Would I like to have more time in solitude, restorative solitude, or would I like to have more time with friends? You know, just thinking about questions like this can help us start to figure out how we might make our lives happier. With greater self-knowledge, we're better able to make hard decisions that reflect ourselves, our own nature, our own interests, our own values. In my own case, I have found that the more my life reflects my nature, the happier I get, and the more grounded I feel when I'm going through a period of major change or transition. For more great advice, search for IMO with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson wherever you get podcasts. You can listen to Issa Rae on letting go of certain friendships, Kiki Palmer on why disappointment is actually the key to career success, Seth and Lauren Rogan on caring for aging parents, and so many more.